The shade of it all.
Have you ever wondered why the art of the subtle insult comes so easily to some people? Ever wish you could sharpen your tongue? You need a lesson on throwing shade.
I doubt we'll be conversing ever again unless I take a sudden interest in dying of boredom.
We've got tips galore on throwing shade, but before that, you have to learn and respect its history and watch some masters from both fiction and real life in action.
I want to just sort of throw out a few names of divas instead of get your one-word reaction, instead of get your impression of various singers. Taylor Swift.
Okay, great gowns, beautiful gowns.
Here's our take on where shade comes from, what it means, and how to throw it so it lands.
That's a part of shade. That's the idea. Knock them out if you can. Get them anyway. You hit them below the belt.
Yeah.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified about all of our new videos. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is an online learning community where millions of people come together to take classes that fuel their creative journey. The first 1,000 people to use the link in our description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. So become a member today and start exploring your creativity for less than $10 a month. We can find the term throwing a shade as far back as Jane Austen's Mansfield Park in 1814. But lexicographer Grant Barrett has tracked the regular use of the verb to shade as a synonym for to insult to the 1920s, when it was often used by members of Black communities.
I was able to trace it back to the 1920s when to shade somebody meant something very similar, which would be to defeat or to outdo or to best someone.
The way we understand throwing shade today is largely derived from drag ballroom culture, which also began in earnest in the 20s in New York City. To shade is an essential tenet of drag culture, having been used to describe a particular type of insult by the Black and Latino drag communities.
I would give you an explanation if your outfit didn't look like the inside of a coffin.
Ooh, shade of the panel.
By the time the iconic ballroom documentary Paris is Burning was released in 1990, the term had taken on its new, more particular meaning related to the concept of reading.
Shade comes from reading. Reading is the real art form of insult.
In the drag community, to read someone is to insult them, and according to veteran queen and Paris is Burning star Dorian Corey,
You found a flaw and exaggerated it, then you've got a good read going. Then reading became a developed form where it became shade.
shade is less literal than reading. It can be veiled as a compliment, take the shape of a look, or even manifest in a dance.
Voguing came from shade because it was a dance that two people did because they didn't like each other. And whoever did the better moves was throwing the best shade.
The art of throwing shade is a fine-tuned one, and less can be more. It's as much about what you're not saying as what you are.
Shade is, I don't tell you you're ugly, but I don't have to tell you because you know you're ugly.
As Professor E. Patrick Johnson told the New York Times, if someone walks into a room with a hideous dress, but you don't want to say it's hideous, you might say, "Ooh, look at you."
One of the tips is to do it really subtly so they don't even realize that you're insulting them to their face.
John Paul Brammer writes that shade is all the more biting because it makes the subject wonder, did that person just insult me? Academic Seth E. Davis writes that throwing shade is representative of a large literacy specific to these queer Black communities, heavily informed by context. He calls shade a practice of survival and self-defense for a community. When you consider the context of being part of an intersectional community that has been systematically abused, it makes sense that an indirect, no-contact form of retaliation emerged.
Your uniform of ill-fitting J.Crew culottes, fake pearls, and 50-cent scrunchies cannot conceal the fact that you do not know who you are.
Nowadays, no one is exempt from shade or being accused of throwing it.
Pete Souza was the official White House photographer for all 8 years of the Obama presidency.
Souza's Instagram feed described as a masterclass in shade.
This has, in turn, opened up conversations about cultural appropriation and the ways in which gay and drag culture, particularly those aspects informed by Black and Latino communities, are mined by more privileged people.
Appropriation is when you come into our community and you fetishize us, and then you take from us. and you don't acknowledge us.
As we trace the anatomy of throwing shade as a popularly used phrase, we can also gain insight into how important the linguistic contributions of Black, gay, and drag communities are.
We're not going to be shady, just fierce.
You were at that party, right?
No, it was called the Icon Party, but there were no icons there.
Oh.
And now, here are the Take's top tips for throwing stellar shade. Shade tip number 1, know the her story. Throwing shade is pretty much part of our makeup as humans. It's believed we're programmed to respond with facial expressions, with the nose scrunch, a particularly shady facial expression, notifying others of your disgust or anger. But the assimilation of AAVE into mainstream language is part of the wider problem of cultural appropriation. So if you're going to talk about throwing shade, it's important to know the term's etymology first and to pay respect to the Black and Latino LGBTQ communities who created it and give it meaning.
The Halston.
Halston for J.C. Penney.
Some members of the community don't think the term shade should be allowed to leave it. One participant in Sean E. Davis's study said, "I do feel like if the white community or other communities get a hold of shade, they definitely change the idea of what we see shade as." At the same time, it is also impossible to stop linguistic appropriation, as words and phrases inevitably get picked up and spread by countless speakers.
Right after the inauguration, I posted a picture on Instagram of President Obama. My snarky caption just said, "I kind of like the old curtains better." Someone said that I was shading Trump.
Far more than half of English words are assimilated from other languages, with over 10,000 words coming from French after the Norman Conquest. And already in a 1994 interview, beloved Paris is Burning cast member and master of voguing Willie Ninja talked about throwing shade in scenarios outside the drag community, saying that it's like watching Joan Collins going against Linda Evans on Dynasty, or when George Bush ran against Bill Clinton. They were throwing shade. Who got the bigger shade? Bush did, because Clinton won.
Thank goodness the networks have a fact check, so I don't have to just go blue in the face anymore.
It still stands that if you're unaware of where shade comes from, you owe it to the term's originators to take the time to educate yourself. And if you don't, things can get a little embarrassing.
Please don't try to throw shade just because I'm making sure that
I'm not throwing shade.
Shade tip number 2, be smart. Famously shady queen Bianca Del Rio says you have to be smart about throwing shade.
You have to be smart.
Del Rio claims it's not something you can learn. Either you're great at throwing shade or you're not.
You have to be aware of your own faults, and you also have to be quick, which is difficult. You can't really learn those things.
And it's true that some people just have a knack for using alacrity and wit that leaves their opponents spinning. Take Parks and Recreation's Donna Meagle, whose way with words can leave people scrambling to work out if they've just got a compliment or an insult.
New shirt?
Yeah, I got it at the Dude Ranch with my boyfriend. You like it?
It's not my favorite shirt, but it is my least favorite shirt.
The key is to be observant and quick.
I cannot see Carly wearing it anywhere, honestly.
Not even to dinner with the Kushners?
TV writer Ira Madison III says that shade is like a tennis match. Another top tip is to be creative, not just cruel. As RuPaul says, throwing shade takes a bit of creativity. Being a bitch takes none. Shade isn't about being unkind for the sake of it. It takes some artistry and imagination to keep it funny.
I am in 6-inch heels. You're in the sort of heel I wear when I'm asleep or suffering from food poisoning.
One of Davis's study participants says, if you're gonna throw shade, it's important to know the boundaries between shade and disrespectful. It's right there on the cusp. The tension between throwing great shade and just being mean is articulated regularly in Pose. Take this scene, when the House of Ferocity comes over to throw shade at the House of Evangelista.
Why don't you all just go home and save yourself the humiliation of defeat, huh? Oh! What happened, girl? I cut my hand on Blanca's stubble.
This shade doesn't land, and the complex political setting of the show explains why. Blanca is an HIV-positive trans woman living through the height of the HIV epidemic.
You have no idea what it is like to be a woman living with HIV. Straight men still think that they can catch this virus from a spoon. They want nothing to do with me.
As a character, she is regularly experiencing transphobia in the wider world, so she refuses to accept hateful comments from people within her community.
I'm here to uplift and celebrate the work of everyone in our community this year. I'm not gonna even try to throw your nasty shade back at you.
Get your body language down. As Willie Ninja says, the dance style voguing is a form of shade throwing.
I make my hand into a form like a compact. Then I start doing their face because what they have on their face right now needs a dramatic makeup job.
Physicality plays a huge part in the art. A stare, a glare, a hand gesture, or a flick of the hair. Using your body language can be absolutely key, and your facial expressions are an important way of showing how you feel. It's also always worth working with your surroundings. The way that Lucille Bluth slowly closes the door on her son Job here is super shady, for example.
I just thought that we could hang out.
Likewise, if you have a prop, a mirror, a fan, or, like the ladies from Dynasty, a glass of champagne, you can use it to throw shade too. If you're feeling particularly extra, take a leaf out of Real Housewives of Atlanta's Kenya Moore's book and bring a fan with you if the forecast says shade.
You brought your fan, huh?
Oh yeah, you know, it's drama.
Oh my God.
Speak the truth. As Dorian Corey says, when you're reading someone, you have to make sure what you're saying is truthful, because that's what cuts the deepest.
Sometimes when you read to me, I pretend to fall asleep so you'll go.
Drag queen Manila Luzon says that shade should be both funny and true.
Make it funny because, just in case they get really offended, at least there's something to laugh about. There has to be 100% truth behind it.
One easy way to throw shade is by seeking out a weakness, something the other person may be self-conscious about.
What's up, girl?
Keep walking, 98.
You don't want to talk to that guy? He plays in the NFL.
He's a linebacker. Skill positions only for Don Amigo.
Examples of this can be found in the strangest places, such as an episode of Bridgerton, where Madame Delacroix is careful not to out and out insult the Featheringtons, but says just enough to make them squirm.
Because you were able to pay in advance this time, and since I happen to have some fabrics no one else seemed to want.
Or this scene from Frozen, after the Duke of Whistleton casts aspirations on Elsa's character early in the movie.
She nearly killed me!
She doesn't forget it. She cuts off trade with Whistleton, but she adds insult to injury by sending a servant to throw shade at him, something that triggers his low self-esteem. She then goes one step further by getting the servant to play on the other weakness she knows the Duke has, his anxiety about the mispronunciation of his principality.
Arundel will henceforth and forever no longer do business of any sort with Weaseltown.
Whistleton! It's Whistleton!
A perfect lesson in shade from an Ice Queen.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the shadiest of them all?
There are some characters, both real and fictional, who are incredible at the art of shade, using a look or a word to convey devastating amounts of meaning. Studying our favorite shade-throwing fictional characters and real-life masters, we can learn from the best.
I'm here to support you. You're the one who's all alone and likely to stay that way.
Take Naomi Campbell. She's incredibly adept at saying almost nothing while imbuing what she does say with serious shade.
Wants to know your views on Kendall Jenner being the highest paid model while saying she cherry picks her jobs and could never do 30 shows in a season.
Next question.
She uses her body language too, flashing a false smile to signal that what she's saying may not be true and throw shade on someone else.
It seems Naomi Campbell and Rihanna unfollowed each other on Instagram. Is everything okay between the two of them?
Everything's fine.
What's especially clever about this is that she isn't actually saying anything bad. It's all implied, and that makes it really difficult for the people she's throwing shade on to complain. On the other hand, shade comes so naturally to some people that everything they say seems a little bit cutting. Schitt's Creek's Moira Rose doesn't necessarily mean to be shady, yet she delivers healthy doses of shade in every episode, from getting her son's boyfriend's name wrong.
I was gonna go, make a run to the cafe. I could get you a tea if you want.
No, that's not necessary.
How serendipitous. Thank you, Peter.
It's Patrick.
To the show-stealing high camp outfit she wears to their wedding. She throws shade at her own kids, bringing up irrelevant subjects to have a little dig at David.
I have
Some news.
Oh, David, I'm not sure I'm in the mood to hear about another sexual exploit. I'm sorry. Who is it this time?
And questioning her husband's reasons for hugging them.
I was just, hugging my kids.
Why?
However, it's possible that some of Moira's barbs stem from the fact that her life has been turned upside down, and throwing shade makes her feel powerful.
That's the spirit. If Jocelyn can do it, anyone can. Yeah.
Shade is an extension of Ruthie from Shrill's personality, too. Her double-edged compliments fit right in with the traditional definition of shade, highlighting others' deepest anxieties while seemingly saying something nice about them.
I may be turning 24, but my wish is to be as wise and amazing as the oldest person I know, my gay grandpa, Gabe.
Elsewhere, How to Get Away with Murder's Annalise Keating is one shady lady. As show creator Shonda Rhimes has stated,
I think we soul sisters just because you rented out a hair salon for a few hours on the black side of town, please.
Annalise can make her students feel small, but she never does so unnecessarily. A lot of the time, when she's throwing shade, it's to drive home a point.
Never take a learning opportunity away from another student. No matter how smart, you need everyone to think you are.
Perhaps the best current on-screen examples of shade, closest to how Dorian Corey described it in Paris' Burning over 30 years ago, arrive courtesy of ballroom drama Pose. In this scene, while Elektra reads a transphobic woman in a restaurant,
God may have blessed you with Barbies, a backyard with a pony in it, a boyfriend named Jake, and an unwanted pregnancy that your father paid to terminate so you could go to college and major in being a basic bitch.
her friends Lulu and Angel click their fingers and embody their disgust. Once she is finished,
Now pick your jaw up off the floor and go back to your clam chowder and shallow conversations.
Elektra shoos the woman away. In another scene, where Blanca goes head-to-head with Frederica, the landlord of her nail salon, we see how she employs shade to give her power in this situation, which links back to the idea of shade as a form of armor. Earlier in the episode, Frederica tells her,
By the year 2000, there won't be a neighborhood in this city where a normal person feels uncomfortable walking.
Then, when Frederica tries to evict her, Blanca does an impersonation of Frederica.
I'm not here to gentrify neighborhoods so white ladies like you can feel comfortable walking down the street.
Frederica isn't used to being spoken to like this, and despite being deeply prejudiced against Blanca, she's kind of impressed.
I'm not easy to get the best of. I almost admire you.
The characters in Pose are the whole package, smart, quick-witted, and well-versed culturally, and they're also bold enough to speak out against fellow ball attendees who cross them or wider structural problems.
Don't you have anything better to do?
Told you I'll be here every night until you serve me.
The show gives a great grounding, not only in throwing shade, but in why the concept exists in the first place. The act of throwing shade is an inherent human response to conflict, but the terminology belongs to a culture that has been systemically abused. So it's important to respect and acknowledge its roots while you use our top shade throwing tips. In a world that's often cruel, it's good to have a recourse that repackages negative energy in a fun way.
Can you give us an example of a time when you made peace with someone you didn't see eye to eye with?
I looked across at Miss O'Hara and realized that she was ugly. And I'm at peace with that.
And when the time comes that you have to take shade, you have two options. Throw it straight back, or smile and don't let it touch you. Remember what Pose's Candy said.
That's because you can't shade something that's shining so bright.
Thanks so much to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Skillshare offers thousands of affordable classes designed to fit your schedule with short video lessons that you can pause and come back to at any time. One Skillshare original you can check out right now is Nicholas Smith's class on creating art that inspires change. Smith is known for his activist art paintings and posters for beloved movies like Black Panther and South Side with You. By the end of this course, you'll feel empowered to tap into whatever cause you feel passionate about to create impactful art with clear, effective messaging. Right now, Skillshare is offering our viewers a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership, but that's only if you're one of the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description below. So join today and jumpstart your creative journey for less than $10 a month with an annual subscription.